There is that option. Now we're live. Welcome,
Hi.
everybody. I'm so excited to be here. This is now the second live I'm doing today, and I'm so excited that I'm here with Randy Goldfarb. Randy, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's very exciting for me too.
Amazing.
Thank you
I
for
love it.
inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. You are an incredible resource to parents. And how did you and I meet? You and I met, you had reached out to me years ago, wasn't it?
Right. So I had actually attended one of our conferences last minute, went to Zoom at the start of the pandemic. I couldn't attend live.
Okay.
And so that was kind of how we first met, if you will. But you didn't know I was meeting you. I needed continuing edits, which is always lovely. And I was very blessed to listen in on your course and listen from you. And I am a big believer in gratitude, shifting our mindset. That's one of the things that I find makes a big difference. And I said, I'm going to just reach out and tell her, thank you so much. This was really so valuable and so refreshing. And so I did. And I guess then that's kind of how we connected.
I love it. And thank you so much for reaching out when you did. Very, very seldom do I ever know who actually watches my courses. I just get like a
Right.
little thing saying 200 people saw, but I like don't know who they were.
Right.
And
Right.
you reached
So
out
I'm
and you
first in a real life person.
I loved it. And I'm very grateful that you did. And then a little while later, you created a referral, and I'm working with a family I really love. And
Yes.
it was a great story of coming together. And I'm so excited to have
Yes.
you here. Amazing topic, tackling the negativity in our mindset, parents flipping in. But before we even get to that, can you share with everyone who you are in this world and how you contribute? Because you contribute immensely.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. So I am a social worker for over 20 years. And at the time when I became a social worker, I wasn't, I was much younger, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew I liked people and I wanted to help kind of thing. And I ended up working in radiation oncology for straight out of graduate school as a social worker. And that was an enormously gifted experience. I would say I learned from exceptional people that were my colleagues and my mentors and supervisors, and also from my patients. And it kind of put me on a journey that I was continuing from before. And after I had my first child, I chose not to go back to that setting. I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I got involved in private practice and then in the world of early childhood and working with little ones, where I find the work very rewarding because, the earlier we can help and share insight and support parents and children into growing the best versions of themselves, that's like the best case scenario, because the world is sadly, unfortunately, a very challenging place, especially in the days of the pandemic. So I started teaching in early childhood and also working and training in early childhood programs, helping teachers with the vast knowledge of social work kind of life and world and bringing that into the classroom setting. And that's been enormous. Another gift, because it's really given me some special opportunities to really interact with remarkable people and work with the most amazing children and to learn a lot in the process.
I love it.
That's
I love
me.
it. Amazing. And tell us a little bit about zachandnat.com.
So that was it's like my creation of a company that I felt like was going to reflect a lot of the work that I wanted to do. I began with writing a book about separation anxiety because I was struggling with that with my youngest child. And I felt very frustrated by that because here I was, a very well-trained social worker, and we were a mess at drop-off. And it was very challenging. And at the time, I didn't feel that I was getting the support I needed. I think everyone just wanted everyone to be happy, and I felt that can't be it. So I decided to write a book that would have been the book that I wish I would have had at the time, because I love to read with my kids and I love to read with children. I think it's an enormous opportunity to really grow together when you read.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the beginning. And I said I really be able to go out and share what I've learned and be able to support young children and parents and teachers.
I love it. What's the name of your book? Can you share with us?
So my book is Yippee Yahoo! I'm Going to School.
Oh, I love
It's
it.
available on Amazon. And the reason why I chose that name was because when I was looking for books actually in the beginning about separation anxiety, I found that most of the books had a bit of a negative spin. Intentionally, but really focusing on the child's experience from the negative perspective of the child crying and having a hard time, missing mommy, I don't want to go to school. And I didn't find that most of them gave enough time to sort of go the healthy process that could evolve by actually learning to separate in a healthy way and engaging in the classroom and having teachers who knew what to do to help you do that. So that was what I strove to do in writing in that book. It's been quite a journey also being a separation supporter at a lot of different programs, really guiding the parents especially and the teachers, because I think everyone does their best and they want to distract children and just get them off to school. But there's so much that you can start doing with the littlest child to begin the process of healthy communication, understanding emotions, and learning that you can bring sadness along with you for your day and still have a lovely day.
I love that. I mean, so much there. There's the dialectic, right, of having sadness with you if you need it there for as long as you need it there, and still have a good day and outcome. And, Randy, for everyone watching, just developmentally understanding that, when a kiddo's small and they're connected, in the womb, we're connected, right? And then outside, we're still connected. But at some point, that individuation, that separation has to happen, right? And then we can see the outcome of when it doesn't happen. And sometimes not only do kids have a hard time separating, but the parent, as you mentioned, has a huge, right, powerful role in that happening. And so I think you said that so eloquently.
Thank you, because that's actually something that I learned humbly, that I was contributing to my child not being able to leave because I was struggling. And the more that I spoke to other parents, I noticed that everybody was saying the same thing and struggling themselves and really kind of wanting to be there, not letting go. And children really pick up on that. So the idea is to really give healthy skills to practice in advance so you feel ready and you could feel like yippee yahoo, I'm going to school. And a young child, even young children who are very attached to their parents or their mommies, whichever their, caregiver, whoever it may be, can really separate in a healthy way no matter how much they love them. They just need the tools and they need the patience and the wherewithal really of the educators and adults around them to kind of also support them in, having a healthy separation.
I love that so much, Randy. And tell me what you think. In my work, I work a lot with parents who themselves are having a hard time separating from their children. Sometimes we assume that parents should just kind of have it in their DNA to just want their kids to be separate from them. But the truth is that there's so many parents that silently deal with their own anxiety from separating. And so do you see that often as well?
Yes, I think there's something actually also in this dynamic of the parents standing around or doing drop off that it's sort of like this, yeah, my kid doesn't want to leave. I don't know what to do. It's so crazy. I can't, what am I, there's fuel that gets fed by that because there's this common thing of every child's supposed to have a miserable separation and they're all supposed to cry and, have tantrums on the floor. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And I think it's often also because, we in general, I don't know that we think feelings first in our lives and interactions, and especially with parents. It's often, a child falls, get up, you're okay. That kind of thing, because we all tend to have a little bit of anxiety or worry. What if I can't help? What if I don't know what to do? What if they won't be okay, but I have to go here, I have to go there. There's so many challenges that come up for parents that make And also, there's something about your child being a little independent that may feel a little strange. And I actually remember when my second son was doing really well with separation, I had to catch myself because I almost felt like, wait a minute, why does he not cry right now? Am I the only one whose child doesn't care about his mommy? I had to remind
Um,
myself that it's actually healthy. And it doesn't mean he
yeah.
didn't love me. It just means that he felt safe and comfortable, that he could go about his day. And he definitely missed me, but he knew that he could miss me, take that sadness with him and have it join him, little place maybe on his shoulder throughout the day, but learn that he can still have fun. And that's something I think that we don't necessarily, even as adults, think about. That sadness is, or anxiety or worry is okay if it kind of stays with us, but we allow ourselves to still enjoy and put ourselves into everything in a healthy way without over focusing on it. And it's hard sometimes. It's not so easy. And especially with the pandemic, where everyone is around each other so much more, I
Yeah.
think separation is really a bit in a tailspin now, because we're seeing it with even older children who you would say developmentally should have kind of evolved past this stage, but they may be showing more younger behaviors with separation because of the pandemic and because of being so used to being with caregivers so much more. I think, and parents feel more concerned about dropping their children off with, again, with the pandemic, that the separation becomes a lot more loaded with a lot more emotional content.
Absolutely. And thinking about just the compounded effect of that, because there is this very real worry and anxiety that comes with the pandemic and the consequences of going out, right?
Right.
And so it's very, very compounded. I love that
Yeah.
topic. Everyone should go out and get that book. I'm going to get that book. That's
Yes,
awesome.
thank you. I feel like we could talk all day about that. That's like a whole topic in and of itself. Yes, but it's
It really
definitely,
is.
yeah. It's actually one of my favorite topics, to be honest. And when children having trouble with separation anxiety, I get excited. Not that I want children to suffer. I don't mean it that way, but I'm like, there's so much opportunity here, because we can really inject something different into the experience that can really make it, a meaningful one. So there's a lot to do with it.
I love that. So it's taking something that seems challenging and turning it into an opportunity for learning and development.
Right.
Yeah, love it. What is the topic today? Tackling the negativity in our mindset, parents flipping in. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, so it actually is it fits very well with separation anxiety that we were just talking about, because a lot of times parents flip out when their child is having a hard time separating. And so what I found, especially with the pandemic, that there's so much negativity around us. Negativity in two different ways, right? Our space fills up with the negativity around us on social media, with all the challenges the world has in front of it. And a lot of the information is scary, worrisome, negative about people, all kinds of challenges. And that sort of infiltrates our thinking without us even realizing. And also, because we are with people a lot more in closed quarters more often, or if we are going to work or school, there's everybody under stress, which never was the case. You would go someplace, and especially in schools, some teachers would be having a crisis or a challenge here and there. But now you go to school and you send your children to school, and everybody's under stress. There is
Mhm.
I would be I don't know if I would find any workplace that's really calm and everybody's just fine. So that's where the negativity kind of comes in, where there's so much. And most what I'm hearing from parents is, I'm ready to scream. I can't handle this anymore. My kids
Mhm.
at this, and everyone is just so stressed out. So I feel like that contributes to this negativity in our mindset. We don't have time and space. Many people don't have a commute anymore to sort of switch gears. Many children are not on buses anymore. Maybe they're carpooling, or maybe they're home completely. So none of us really having that, oh, and even if you go into a store, it's like for 5 minutes quickly because we don't get that chance to switch gears. So I feel like the negativity follows us all over the place. And then when stressful situations happen, we to flip out, which means we get all upset, or we are upset within and then we lash out. So it happens in many different ways. So what I like to call it flipping in, because I think, it's important to take something that's challenging and channel that and kind of, turn it over and say, wait a second, it doesn't have to be about flipping out about everything. That's not the place that we need to go necessarily.
I love that. It reminds me of, kids have these timeouts.
Yes.
And for years, I've been just suggesting to parents to create time in spaces, right? And so they're like, well, wait a minute, what's that? And I'm like, well, it's like a paradigm shift, right? It's like, well, it's like a space where they can put themselves into a time in, right? And so when they put themselves into this time in, it's like going inward and just kind of being able to self-regulate or use maybe some mindfulness exercise. So is that what you're talking about, is for parents to go inward and sort of ask themselves certain questions to get to the bottom of what's going on for them?
Yes, so it's twofold actually, because that's something that I've also amazingly for many years have been saying. We need to take a time in, turning away children and saying, go over there because you are not regulated and you're not worthy, and go handle it yourself. I mean, we've never had a child, I don't know if you've ever come across a child who, after they were in time out, said, wow, thank you for that opportunity to think about what I did. You're absolutely right. I'm not going to do that again. That was so helpful. That doesn't happen. No, it doesn't happen. So the idea is taking time in, saying, it looks like you need help with something. Let's figure out what to do. So one of the things that has been instrumental for me in my practice, in my work, but also for me personally since the pandemic, is really, and actually when I took your course, one of the things you were talking a lot was breathing and how important the breath is. And I call it kind of be breathful, that we often wait to be breathful. I'm not sure if that's a real word. When something is, I made it up. I coined a new word. So we wait to be breathful when something is stressful, right? Sometimes, when you're stressed out, you go, ah. But actually, what we really need to do is be breathful many steps before that, so that we are aware that our breathing affects everything around us, and that when a child is doing something that really pushes a nerve, that we have an opportunity first to take a deep breath, because what that does, and even 3 deep breaths, unless the child is in danger and it's a dangerous situation, generally speaking, you have a couple of seconds to really do that and sort of think, like, in the grand scheme of things, what is really going on? How can I help? Because I think the typical thing, and this is something I hear from teachers often, being a teacher is very challenging work, especially during the pandemic. There's often limited resources. Children have enormous needs and they have different ways of communicating, and you've got to manage all that, plus meeting curriculum needs and managing all kinds of changes in the schedule that you may not be anticipating. And parents have that now with the pandemic also. What we're used to, parents who used to go off to work now are home with their children so often. We don't have time necessarily to even take time in for ourselves. So I definitely encourage parents, along with children, to teach and talk and integrate breathing into their regular life and make it fun, and be like, I just needed a deep breath. I need another one or two. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. And model and say, I was feeling very wound up. I don't know. I was upset about something today. I think I want to do that so I can feel a little calmer. And now I can listen to you. So I find that when parents model and flip, again, saying I'm feeling frustrated, but saying, what can I do? My child is not necessarily trying to, ruin my life today. But maybe there's something I can do to be of help. And maybe they have so much negativity in their space that we need to create some other space that allows for a different mindset that says, wait a minute, let's problem solve. But you can't problem solve when you're all wound up and you
Right.
can't really breathe.
Yeah. And what I love about what you're sharing, and you're right, in my course, I spend a lot of time talking about breath work. And what you're saying is not just to be prepared with tools for breath work in moments when shit hits the fan, excuse my language, but
Yes.
also to have like a practice where we
Right.
bring about breath work as if it's a really, an awareness that we have every day, even in moments when things are not going wrong. So that when they
Yes.
do, right, they do go off course, not only are we prepared with tools, but it becomes like a second nature to kind of dig into that deeper.
Exactly.
I like that.
Exactly, because and it's very interesting also because one of the things that you opened my eyes to from your course, all about the breath work, I've always been like, I don't like yoga, I don't like those things, it's not my thing. I've always been that, yet I'm a social worker who's helped lots of people, and I've always talked about taking deep breaths. And I was like, wait a second, something's not jiving here. But what I learned is that I don't have to like yoga, if you will, if that's the case. And I've learned to appreciate many aspects of it. But I realized that everybody can create a practice of breath work. And when you integrate it into your life, we pick up our phones all the time. So what I've tried to do, and I encourage parents to do this too, when you pick up your phone, be breathful.
I like it.
If you're going into another room, be breathful. Like every time you're kind of switching gears, give yourself that moment to realize you are switching gears. It creates some more positive space around you that quiets some of the negativity. And it allows you, exactly like you're saying, Victoria, to really make it a practice that integrates into your life. And then when you're feeling stressed out and your child sees you being stressed out, for example, or vice versa, you're more likely to use the breath work, and it will work and be helpful more quickly than it would if you're waiting to use it when you're feeling stressed out, because 99% of the time, probably 100% of the time, it really doesn't help you significantly. It may just stop you for a moment because you took a deep breath, but then you're right back in that same mess you were just in before.
Yeah.
And I think that really is a big piece for tackling the mindset. And again, it's wonderful if someone can practice yoga, but I do also feel like if you didn't have a practice of yoga before, or if you haven't started one, chances are with your hectic life, you may not be able to start doing a full course of yoga. But let's take the wisdom from yoga and the importance of breath work and be breathful every opportunity we can. It's a game changer. It's a game changer in a very big way. And I think when kids see that too, they can learn that they can start taking a breath too. And that's very powerful. I've had not even 2-year-olds in my classes going, ah, now that may not be the most calming breath in the universe, but that child isn't at a developmental stage to exactly know how to do that. But they know that it's something, and it can be fun. And that's why I also like to do it in a fun, playful way. You play catch with the child. You say, 1 second, I got to take a deep breath. That was a very strong throw you had there, or I just missed that ball for the 90th time. Let me take a deep breath and just get ready, and you can inject humor into it and playfulness, and then it becomes something that's fun to do instead of something you have to do.
Right. It becomes something you get to do. And I love that because, what we're trying to do really is we're using our natural mechanism, our brain and neuroplasticity, right, to create that space between something happening and our response to it. And so much when, there's stuff going on, we, as humans, right, we stimulus response, and it just like rubs up against
and it keeps, and then sometimes it even does this. Yeah.
Right. And so what you're talking about is using breath, which is something we already have, right? And something that is probably one of the most powerful tools.
And it's free.
And it's free, right? Like you don't have to
and it's within you. It's within you. You don't have to even use an app or anything else. It's right within you. Exactly.
To really just create that space. And I love it. One of the things I always share, in that course that you took was, and it might be a little heavy, but the only thing that really separates us from the dead is our breath, you know, and it's such an exquisite tool that most of us are not aware of, and therefore, because we're not aware, we don't always use. So I like what you're saying. This is amazing. This is really amazing. And go ahead.
Yeah, and I think, there's been a lot of things that have been kind of happening in my personal life where has sort of been brought to the my consciousness. I discovered that I often throughout the day actually almost hold my breath, meaning I breathe narrowly and shallow, and I forever missed it. And actually, it's been very interesting because now I catch myself and I say, wait a second, this is your tool that you have the ability to use. Keep working at it, keep using it, because you're almost wasting your own resource. And it's really allowed me to sort of switch gears. And the other thing that I like about sort of integrating breath work into your day for children and adults and for teachers as well. In my classroom, we would have a rain stick, again, with just 2-year-olds. We would pass it around, and they knew that when they turn it one way, they take a deep breath, and then they listen and listen, and then they blow their breath out after. Again, starting it early to give them a sense of how to do it. The best part of breath work, though, I find, and you alluded to this also, because it is such a gift that gives us so much wisdom. When you take a deep breath, you can actually, instead of that stimulus that's creating that stress for you, even if you're this close to having it either rub or kind of really hit, you can stop and not react the way you were originally just wired to do, or you thought you were wired to do. And you can say, and this is where I talk about strength seeking and speaking. And I love it, because when I was a kid, I would always ask my parents, where's the this? Where's the that? And my dad, who was really just an amazing mentor to me, who passed away, would always say to me, seek and ye shall find. And I always still, as a kid, you would like roll your eyes and be like, Dad, can you just tell me where it is? And the truth is, he didn't often know where things were. My mother did. But I would go to my mother and she would say, you have to look with your eyes and hands. And I would be like, can anyone give me what I need? But those are actually two beautiful lessons now I see as an adult, that when you are in a different frame of mind and you have made space from the negativity, you can actually find something good. And it sometimes doesn't hit you in the face the other way. Like a lot of times we talk about catch a child doing something good. So I like that. But that for me is a little bit passive, because I can be standing there, someone's throwing a ball and I catch it. What did I really do? I just kind of stood there and I caught it. But if I say, I'm going to seek the good, I'm going to search for it, I'm going to look for a strength right now, because there's got to be one that I can find. And maybe it's a strength for yourself, saying, I'm choosing not to scream right now because I took my deep breath, because I knew that I didn't have to. And it's fuming inside, but I stopped myself. A child can also, you can see the good around when you create space for the negativity to almost hit a wall, that it's not going to penetrate and come through and seep into my every being. And that is something that I think breath work allows you to do. Because without that, it's almost impossible in some ways. And if you do it in half, it's not going to move you to the next space that you want to get to.
Yeah. What I really love about this conversation, Randy, is getting to talk to someone like you, who is so like-minded, but we all have a very different way of unpacking this stuff. And how you just described that is so incredible, right? Because what you're talking about is breath work, right? The practice of breathing and becoming aware can create the space to not to not say there's no place for negativity, but we make space for us to see what are the strengths? Really seek out what are our strengths, what's going well, right? Like what's good here. And because so many of us are either wired from our childhoods or trauma or attachment trauma or moments that have compounded one another, right? Of like negativity, we get defensive because we protect ourselves. And the negativity is like the number one thing that we,
Yes.
right? It's a comfort zone.
Yes.
But
It's
breath
almost
work,
like as quick as you snap your fingers, it happens. It's like, yeah.
right. Right. And like knowing it doesn't make a difference. It's almost like a mechanism. So what you're talking about is really rewiring, like neuroplasticity, right? Breath work, really rewiring our reactions. It gives us a chance to respond rather than react the way that we're just hardwired to react. And that's beautiful. And so, Randy, if parents are watching and they don't, they don't have this background, they don't really, do this work on their own, what would you suggest to parents who are just really new to this? What resources are out there for parents who don't necessarily know where to begin?
So that's actually a very good question. So I think parent coaches are very valuable for that, because that's a place where you kind of problem solve and strategize. And I think that's definitely, I feel like, there's a million yoga for kids. There's a lot of this stuff, but I'll tell you something I think actually changed my life and was sort of the start of incorporating breath work. When I worked way back when in radiation oncology, I was talking with a patient who was very, very understandably stressed, had a lot of medical challenges, and just said, I don't like, where do I even begin to help my mindset? Like, this is all new to me. And it was a very quick diagnosis. Her life changed in like a matter of like just a few days. And I said to her, I know you, she drove a lot. I'm trying to remember, maybe the stores were not close to her home, or she drove her children to school, or she drove to her work. I said, what if each time you got to a stop sign, like that's a visual, or a red lights, you see red, you take a deep breath. What if you just did that and try to be able to take a deep breath periodically throughout your day? Or how about every time the bathroom, that quiet time? And she laughed at me. I said, but that's quiet. The door's closed. Take a deep breath, And so what I would say almost, it's try to find any moment that's already in your day where you could just start taking a deep breath and paying attention to breathing, because I think that actually allows more space for you to even think more about, because something, personally, I find, unless I'm looking for something specific, when I search online, I do get overwhelmed because there are so many resources that kind of almost all claim to do the exact same thing. And which one do you choose? So I think that paying attention to how you breathe, paying attention to how your children breathe, or your students for that matter, is a really good start. And I think what I learned, the more you do that, the better it feels, the more you want to do it, and the more it becomes more part of a habit almost. And then, whether it's accessing a parent coach, or one night when you have some space in your, to let me look up something about what are some good strategies. And I think also it's almost like a connected piece, like we were talking about before. Being breathful and being strength seeking is a really important combination. And sometimes it's a question of maybe it's a question of picking someone you like and that you respect and you appreciate, and try to note what their strengths are and say it out loud to yourself. I really like Victoria because she has an ability to explain things in such a way that makes so much sense to me. And you say, that's really a strength of hers. The more you start looking for what's good around you. So it's about being breathful and be searching for what's good, and saying it out loud actually starts to also wire you differently. So you're not reactive, you're more responsive. And that also switches your gear of all the negativity around you, looking for something that is good. And then I think when things are negative and challenging, then it becomes a little more natural, if you will, because I think it's easier to find the good in the good when the good is happening.
Yeah.
That's not as hard often. So the trick is to see it, say it out loud, even if you're talking to yourself. Again, in the bathroom works, wherever it is in the car, people will think you're on the phone. Nobody knows that you're talking to yourself. And anyway, talking to yourself can be very helpful. So that I kind of think of it like you were saying before, also that the breath is such a gift, and it's such a resource. I almost feel like that's the breath, and the strength seeking is really such an important resource to begin with. And then it really helps you to allow yourself to open up to whether it's intervention or looking elsewhere, seeing how you can further the work that you're doing. I don't know if that makes sense. It's not exactly searching for a resource online, but it's kind of turning within for yourself.
100%. And I think what you're pointing to is just the importance of consistency in that practice. So many of us think, oh, if we do it once, what Randy's talking about, it'll work. But it's the consistency, right? And I agree with you. And I think I love what you said, going back a little bit about not just thinking what's going right here. Actually, my partner, he said something to me once that really stood out. I always used, like, what's wrong, and we ask each other, what's wrong? And one time he said, well, what's right? Right. And I thought, oh, that's really good, right? Like, what's going right and what's going well. And so saying it out loud, right? And then saying what's going well, and then even using other senses, because when we think about neurointegration, the more we say it, we see it, we can visualize it, we can create it.
And it comes.
Exactly. And so I love what you just said as a tip for people. So not to just think the good stuff, but to share it with someone. And what you just said, acknowledge someone, right? Like, acknowledge them for, whatever it is you feel for them in that moment, or, what's good, right? And the more we do that, the more we're going to see the good. And it's not that we don't see the negative, but we're able to be more holistic, right?
Exactly right, because the negative isn't going away. I mean, let's be honest. We live in challenging times. Definitely things are getting better in many different ways, but negativity around us is going to be forever, because so many people are wired that way. And the world with social media, there's so much opportunity for information that's on the side of negativity. So it's always going to be there. So the question is, how do we quiet it down from affecting us? Because sometimes, and this is why what you just said about what I just said is very important, because when we hear negativity, it stays in our brain often, and we don't say, oh, I should counter that negativity with some positivity right now, because who really is doing that? So exactly right. When we are not just looking for the good, but it's being a strength seeker and speaker. It's vocalizing what you see that is good and positive, feels good. And then, like you said, with the neuroplasticity, it really does change things. And it actually is having an impact on the negative things that are happening in your brain. It's creating some sort of movement saying, this is not all that exists. Let's remember that this exists. And then you start to see, like the other day, I said, I'm grateful that I got a new cell phone that's a little bit more easy to hold, so my cell phone doesn't drop out of my hand so many times. I can't tell you how many times I dropped my cell phone. I got a really pretty, glittery, fun one. I love purple, so I got purple. I was all excited. It kept falling. And each time it fell, the first few times I was like, be more careful. Be more careful. That's also the first thing we say to kids. They mess something up. Be more careful. You should pay more attention. And then I stopped and I said, what can I learn from the fact that I keep dropping something that's important to me?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? And I said, you know what? It's falling out of my hand. It's really hard to hold. Is there a simple problem solving solution that I can have? Yes. So for I got a different, and you know what? The other day I said, I picked it up, I took a deep breath and I said, It's so nice to have my cell phone that's not falling out of my hands when I need it. And it maybe seems silly, but something as silly as that is actually not silly at all. It's providing
Mm,
space in my brain for positivity and
mhm.
strength, and it's building me up for the next time when I'm going to feel frustrated. I have something that's sort of building me up, that's protecting me in a way from all the negativity. And imagine the power when you acknowledge somebody for their strength and what you notice that they did is good. Imagine the power that has in building somebody up and sort of stifling the negativity. It's
Mm,
just it's an incredible thing, you
it
know.
is. It has a ripple effect, doesn't it? It over,
Absolutely.
and we talk so much, and I think you would agree, whatever we do over here has such a ripple effect out there into our families and, children, our families,
Yes,
into our schools, into our community, out into the world. And so we really are,
absolutely.
you know, we could be the change we want to see. And it all starts here. And I love these kinds of conversations because we sometimes seek out over there. I often also do, we think that maybe like changing locations or taking a vacation or getting a certain item
Right.
is going to like really, really create that change. But it all starts over here. And with just a little bit of
Yes.
work and investment, it could have such a profound effect for a lifetime. So this is
Yes.
an incredible, incredible conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And that's again, it's a small investment for a huge return.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
then you find you complain less, or you share frustration as a way to share frustration, but it's not for the purpose of complaining and contributing to the negativity. It's for a release, and then you're able to find the positivity somewhere else. It's just, yeah, I mean, again, it's, we live in a world that's so free to complain everywhere, you know
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
and I find it overwhelming. I really do. So I think, yeah, we definitely want to find something that can help us change that energy. And it all starts within us, and we have an enormous potential. Even in the smallest way, it's still huge.
I
And
love it.
we, exactly right, Victoria, we really can be the change that really needs to be. Because I think if we all sort of tried to do this, we could really respond versus reacting, like you were saying, and that's powerful.
Super powerful. Randy, I loved this conversation and I want to just say, I want to have more. These are
Yes,
incredible. Um,
I
I,
would
I
love
want
that.
to, aside from zachandnat.com, what other ways can people work with you and get in touch with you?
So on my website, my email address is there, but I can say it now. My email address is Randy with RANDI at zachandnat.com. And shoot me an email. I love working with parents who are having tantrums with their children doing this type of work. I have a Keep Calm kit that is very valuable. It's a box of uh, items that you use with intentionality, and your children can use with intentionality, that can really help work through tantrums and sort of also like flipping instead of having everyone flip out. And I love to spread some of the things that I've learned and that we have all learned together. So definitely people can shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to connect as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful vibrance and energy and essence with us
Thank you.
today. I
Thank
can't
you.
tell you how important this conversation was for me, and I think for all the people that are watching and watching the replay. And I invite you back soon.
Okay, I look forward. Thank you so much for inviting me, and also for sharing your wisdom with me unknowingly in the beginning. And grateful that we continue to share with each other and support all the people out there that we can.
Mm. Thank you,
Thank
Randy.
you so much.
See you